Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I want people to know that Portland, Oregon is a beautiful, vibrant, successful city. We are not a war zone.
You serious?
So this is a really interesting story. Because now that President Trump has not only deployed federal troops to Portland, but is further shining a nationwide spotlight on the epidemic of left-wing violence in that city, the Portland Police Department appears to be now trying to save face. They're going out and claiming they're finally, for once, going to be doing something about the radical, violent Antifa members who are assaulting people on what is basically a nightly basis. At least that's what it appears to be on the surface. I think, however, when you delve much deeper into the context and history into how these things have gone in the past, you'll rapidly find out that this entire act is 100% performative. They're trying to create a public perception of law and order to make it seem like, hey, we have the situation under control. Portland is not this lawless nightmare. Trump is completely unjustified in sending federal troops, when in reality, as we've covered in the past, not only do the police departments and the DAs and the local politicians excuse this behavior, not only do they never actually look to target or arrest these violent left-wingers, but there is actively a coordinated campaign going on. They're working together between Antifa and the elected Democrats to save face and run cover for one another, which ought to be something that is highly scandalous. After all, imagine if the GOP was like openly coordinating with the KKK, essentially. That is the equivalent here of what is going on, but of course, total crickets and absolutely nothing. Nonetheless, in today's video, I want to tell you this full chronicle of what's going on, especially as it relates to the recent assault video that we saw of conservative journalist Katie Daviscourt this week, who is someone that works for Andy No under the Post Millennial. Obviously, Andy No, if you know the history there, is a expert. He was basically patient zero to the country in terms of insane left-wing violence. And the way in which Portland PD, after allowing this Antifa member, they watched and saw as, I believe, a she, it looks like, walked away, are now saying, hey, after nationwide outrage and backlash against it, we want to find this person. Do you really? Do you really? We'll tell you all about it, guys, as well as show you more examples, again, of this coordinated campaign between Democrat officials and the local rioters. And that's, by the way, why I specifically use the term insurrection in the context of Oregon, because it's not just about the riots in the streets. It's about the fact that the Democrats are choosing willingly to not enforce the laws, especially the First Amendment in the United States, and coordinating openly with the people who are out in the streets committing the violence. And how are we supposed to interpret that if not any other way than, yes, insurrection and rebellion against the federal government? That said, we'll tell you all about it, guys. First, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Help us begin our push to 600K. And that said, here is the reporting, and some of you may have seen the actual video of this, but earlier this week, just a couple days ago, journalist Katie Daviscourt was bashed on the eye with a pole by an Antifa assailant outside the Portland ICE facility. This came after months of Antifa threats, which is something also worth noting, because it's far from the first time. I mean, just ask Andy No, after all. If you guys don't know, he was one of the first journalists in like a nationwide context to get assaulted by Antifa on camera. And it was this big story back in like 2018, 2019, for those of you who are maybe newer to the political scene. Nonetheless, this happens regularly, where Antifa do not want people essentially to be filming them. And if you do film them, they will get aggressive, if not outwardly violent towards you. And that's obviously what happened here. Now, what I'm told about Antifa by Democrats is that these are peaceful protesters. Antifa is just an idea. These are people who are just rallying for anti-fascism and free speech and all of these things. But first and foremost, you know, I've seen protests in my life. I've been to protests in my life. The vast majority of actual peaceful protesters want to be on camera. They want you to see their signs, because why? They want to make it like a public demonstration. Hey, put the spotlight on this, highlight our political cause. Yet when you try to film Antifa, the opposite happens. Why exactly is that? Because these are not peaceful protesters. These are not even political activists. These are violent criminals engaged in criminal behavior. That's exactly why they don't want to be on camera. They want to be hidden. So that way there can be no repercussions for their violent behavior. And by the way, you want to talk about domestic terror organization? That's how they would behave. But secondly, and also notable about this story, at the time that it happened, Katie not only showed a Portland police officer the suspect and the video, by the way, but he didn't make an arrest. Now Portland PD are saying they want to arrest this person, as we talked about in the beginning. But here is that video, by the way. So let's show you what is happening here, right?
Following, so we're going to see if anything happens.
That's the suspect. Portland PD sees this person. Katie Daviscourt's made it clear, hey, you know, this is the person. Now, even if you want to make the due process defense, okay, at least detain the person so you can figure out what's going on. You'll notice none of that goes down, right? So they just keep walking. The video is going on for several minutes. Portland police, you can see on the back, right? So this is indeed what is happening. We're going for several oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Transport backpack.
Do not touch me.
That one.
Do not touch me.
Her.
Do not touch me. No, I'm not. I am not. I just said that you are. I'm under arrest.
Okay, so she's trying to walk away. She's resisting law enforcement commands, by the way. Let's see if the Portland police do anything. Oh, wait a minute. He's just letting her walk away. Look at that. Insane scandal, by the way. Now there they go. They're walking for several blocks. Where's Portland PD? Are they going to chase down the suspect? No. Right? Imagine that. This is Portland police, by the way. Hey, you're being detained. You're under arrest. No, I'm not. Okay, have a nice day. That's exactly what's going on. Okay, so the video is going fast. I mean, they're walking several blocks down the road. Let's skip ahead a bit to see if anything actually changes here, right? They're walking to some hippie festival. This is, I guess, the homeless encampment where Antifa is staging their operations from. And yeah, of course, by the end of it, Portland police did what, ladies and gentlemen? Did what? Absolutely nothing. But that said, let us take a listen to this very journalist herself, Katie Daviscourt, as she tells her side of the story, if it was not already clear enough from that video of Portland police policy.
Katie Daviscourt is the post-millennial journalist attacked by Antifa. Wow, that is quite a shiner. You all right?
Oh, yeah, I definitely have a black eye. So that's what it's been like covering Portland for the past 4 months. Complete lawlessness.
Wow. They say it's just one city block. Is that even true?
That's not true. So it went from being a war zone to one city block, but it's actually several blocks where that is completely controlled by Antifa affiliated protesters who harass, assault, and threaten anyone who they perceive to be a threat to their cause, including journalists, local residents, and ICE agents. And the Trump administration is absolutely correct in deploying federal troops here because Portland police has completely abandoned this zone. They refuse to go in, and everyone that shows up is on their own.
So it's kind of like Chaz or CHOP was in Seattle. They just, I guess, secede this territory, cede it to Antifa, and they just let everything play out?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So last night I got assaulted and I immediately ran to a Portland police officer, hunted down the suspect, chased her through the streets and said, "This is my assault suspect. Can you guys finally do something?" And I had eyes on her for about 35 minutes. Portland police refused to come in and make an arrest. And I had 3 officers just standing there watching me try to hunt down this suspect. And imagine my anger when I go online after doing all of that about an hour ago. And I see Portland police put out a bolo asking for the public's help in identifying my assault suspect. So that is what it's like on the ground here in Portland. And it's time for a federal crackdown. The Trump administration needs to start treating Antifa like ISIS, the terrorists that they are, and put an end to them here for good.
Yeah, well, we have a lot to say about that. But first of all, I'd like to further point out that this is not even the only case of a journalist getting assaulted this week. There was that video of the guy who basically had to be saved by a DHS laser. Here, though, is another one from Nick Sortor just last night, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's correct. Where, once again, right? They pushed on him. They're trying to assault him where the police absolutely nowhere to be found. And notice, by the way, I mean, you know there's a protest going on here, right? You understand there can be safety threats during a protest. Generally in my life, when I'm at protests or I've seen them, there's at least a decent law enforcement presence. Notice what it is in Portland, as she points out. Basically nothing, and then finally you find one Portland police officer down the block. That's what you have for an entire chaotic protest of Antifa, one police officer. And why exactly is that? We've explained this before, but let us explain it again, and now with the direct confirmation and proof of exactly what we've been talking about, which is the active no-go zone policy of Portland police that is designated as a result of the sanctuary city, right? Basically, it is total anarchy here. Police will not respond to 911 calls. They will not respond to crimes, except for the rare case, perhaps, of self-defense, in which case then they'll come and arrest you for that, right? That's always how this type of stuff goes. But this is all a result. Again, this is stated police policy. This is the policy of the city. Every single night, and the reason why this has been going on for several months, by the way, is very obvious. Every single night where there are violent protests or riots going on led by Antifa, Portland police actively are saying, we're not even going to respond to 911 calls of noise complaints from the residents, assaults, anything going on here. And as Bill Malugin is now reporting himself, the Portland police indeed just watch everything, decide not to intervene, and that is indeed official, ladies and gentlemen, police policy. Take a listen.
Security, ISIS Portland director Kamala Wamsley told me she's extremely frustrated with Portland police, as she says the Portland mayor and city council largely block police from responding to any violence at ISIS building. Take a listen.
They're not really supposed to respond to this building. There have been folks that have been assaulted right down here on the street, even across the street, and it takes Portland police a while to respond, or sometimes they don't respond at all.
Is that frustrating?
It is frustrating. It's frustrating for us to watch people be attacked on the street and know that we don't have the authority to be able to really step in unless there's some nexus to federal law. That's frustrating for us.
And last night we did see multiple verbal scuffles almost get to the point of physical confrontations, all while the Portland police liaisons were standing just across the street watching everything but deciding not to intervene. And that in part is why President Trump has said he is sending the National Guard here to Portland. He says the locals aren't doing their job when it comes to protecting this federal facility, so he's going to send the military in. But as of this morning, as you can see, the National Guard not out here just yet. We'll send it back to you.
All right.
Right, so that's why I want you to understand that all of the videos you've seen this week are not isolated, extreme, or random occurrences where the police just drop the ball that one time. We're talking about official Portland police policy, right? What you just saw in that video of Katie Daviscourt of the police, just not doing anything. That's not a bad police officer. That is the official policy of the department, which, of course, I have many thoughts on, but I first like to respond to the Oregon governor, Tina Kotek, who we've played this week, her saying, Portland is a beautiful, safe, vibrant city. And then notably, she was against National Guard or federal troops because she claimed our local law enforcement have the situation under control and they can handle it. Well, that's simply objectively not true, because not only do they not have the situation under control, they're not even trying. They're not even making an attempt. They're completely absent, I think I made the analogy of, it's like claiming you got an A on a test, but you slept in that day and didn't even show up to school. But I did amazing. Like, that's how big the disconnect is. It's not even, I think my answer was right on this question or that. We're debating semantics. I bubbled in an answer wrong or something. No, you weren't even there, right? That's what we're dealing with. So this is why I again say, you are dealing with an insurrection in Portland against the United States. Because it's not just about the riots. It's about the fact that there's a coordinated campaign by local politicians and the officials and the police department and everything to encourage this, to allow this, and in a sense, basically endorse that. And if you're still skeptical about this very debate, I want to further bring you the words this week of a far-left Portland City Council member. Her name is Angelita Murillo. She identifies as a socialist. Is not only just saying, I'm against federal troops or something. actually posted a video giving instructions for how these rioters can avoid being identified after committing crimes. That is right. We have sitting elected officials in that city instructing people how to break the law and how to avoid not just local, but federal detection altogether. Again, encouraging, abetting, and ultimately, in a sense, yes, leading the insurrection as we speak. These are politicians in the city, not random left-wing activists.
A lot of things can change if we are not careful and deliberate with our actions in the next few days. Now, I want to start off by saying I'm not your mommy, I'm not your big sister, and I'm not your babysitter. So I'm going to give you my legal analysis as a city councilor of the risks and benefits of different actions at federal buildings, but I trust your judgment, and you need to decide what risks you are willing to take for yourself and for your community as a whole, because all of this is impacting us collectively. We know that there are more ICE agents on the ground now and that federal surveillance is at an all-time high. So here are some ways that you can protect yourself while organizing for your community. Local journalists like Kevin Foster, who are on the ground at the ICE building, have captured video footage showing that there are unidentified black helicopters flying over the ICE building, and we suspect that they are using that to gather data on people. There are facial recognition technology devices used at most federal buildings, and most people think that they can beat that by covering their faces. But if you just cover the lower half, guess what? You have left your eyes and eyebrows, which are the most identifiable part of you. Even if you do cover your face successfully, some technology can also track your gait and the way that you walk in order to create a pattern that's just identifiable to you, just like a fingerprint.
Yeah, so you basically get the idea. I don't want to play the rest of that video because I'm not trying to encourage people to break the law, especially teach Antifa how they can do it and get away with it. But I am playing it to show you again, this is what Portland City Council members are doing. Actively trying to assist the rioters and the violence and the terrorism ultimately against ICE at that federal facility. Which is why I call it an insurrection and why I further, okay, hot take maybe, but I think President Trump should absolutely invoke the Insurrection Act against Portland. Will it happen? Probably not. They're going to say that's too far or something. But that is exactly what is going on here. And I don't say that just because there is rioting or civil unrest. That happens. I'm saying it because not only are local officials not doing anything about it, again, there's a coordinated campaign in them encouraging and teaching how and assisting actually the violence against ICE happening at federal facilities. So what do you call that? When a state government is endorsing violence against the federal government? That's why I say, right? And so ultimately, in my eyes, something has to be done about this. And by the way, when the police have a stated policy of repeated cases of journalists getting assaulted, right? Keep in mind, journalism is an act of free speech. It's protected by the First Amendment. And the Portland police actively refuse to even try to do something to solve it or stop violence against journalists. How can you sit there and tell me that is not an active violation of the First Amendment by the city of Portland, right? Because people think tyranny only comes one way. It only comes when, the government actively goes in and shuts down free speech. But there is such a thing. There is a concept. I encourage you to heavily research and read about it and conservative writings about these things, because that exactly really describes the Democrat leadership in Portland. And it's that anarcho-tyranny, right? You can actually institute tyranny by not enforcing the law because you're not enforcing the actual protections of people's rights. And so while the government may not be actively coming in and shutting down your printing press or something, they can just say, well, if you get assaulted for free speech, we're going to side with the assaulters. That's another way you can crack down on it. So I again say to Trump and the federal government here, well, if there's a stated public policy in a city in this country that we're disregarding the First Amendment, we're not going to abide by the Constitution, which our state has, ratified to be a part of, at what point do you say, okay, like there needs to be a putting down of what's going on right now. There needs to be some form of a federal takeover. Just my thoughts, okay? You can let me know what you think. But again, it's not just civil unrest. It's the state government engaging in abetting, assisting, and in this case, pushing along the actual civil unrest. That's what makes it exceptional. Now, that said, going back all the way to now the Portland PD claiming they're protecting the First Amendment, claiming that they're going to be after this assault suspect, I want to read you directly what Andy No's take and personal experience is on this, because I think it's pretty obvious what the actual end result of this is going to be. So he points out that after letting Katie Daviscourt's Antifa assault suspect escape, Portland police is now asking the public to help identify the assailant. So again, you might read that on the surface and think, oh, so they're fixing the policy? They're changing face? No. They do this so that it makes it look like they are not ignoring the case, but they are ignoring it. Exactly, right? I speak through the experience of multiple assaults, as people know, has happened to any know, being handled by the Portland Police Department. Katie put her life at risk to find an officer and chase down the suspect, only for the officer to simply let the suspect walk away while masked. And this person went inside the Antifa unit over there. And again, now we're suddenly supposed to sit here and all believe that this time around, ladies and gentlemen, something's going to be done about it. Okay. The only recourse that we have in this situation, again, I would argue is the federal government, but you can disagree. I'm just sharing my thoughts on that. That said, though, guys, let me know all of your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.